For the audience that doesn't know, you're here at the Redneck Mystic Lawyer podcast. And my partner, Sloan Wyszynski, was just letting me know that the number after 2 was 1.
I didn't understand what you just said after you said who I was.
My partner was making sure that I knew that the number after 2 was 1. He gave me the 1-digit salute.
Oh, that one? No, not that one, right?
Not that one. Not quite.
Okay. All right. We'll save the other one for something more appropriate. So, we were talking earlier today about how people from other states and real estate developers, I think mainly people from Florida and California and Texas.
California, you got it. That's it.
Are trying to destroy Appalachia. And we're going to talk about how that's going on. They also had an explorer that came in before them called crypto mines, which are necessary for the cryptocurrency. These are big computer banks, which is basically like their cloud, right? And
that is correct.
This is where they store all your money. They claim to be holding for you, although they don't back it up with much real money. They came in first, and they were, as I understand it from you, I'm going to try to summarize it kind of stupid ease, something I could understand, hopefully. They were basically using up all electricity and the internet connection, and they were interfering with the cell phones. Is that right?
Yes, when they had no, all that's correct. That's just as simple as you can make it. But yes.
And so what was happening is you were having power blackouts.
For the first time in the history of the Tennessee Valley Authority, which controls power in the Appalachian region of Tennessee, the western region of Virginia, and the western region of North Carolina, they had to use rolling power blackouts. They did it during the time of the Arctic front, and they did some afterwards when it warmed up, but it was still very cold and freezing outside, freezing in Fahrenheit. In other words, 32 degrees Fahrenheit and below, 0 degrees Celsius and below.
Well, we need to explain what a rolling blackout is. That's where the TVA decides which area is going to get electricity for and which area is not going to get electricity for a little while, right?
That is correct.
They can't supply the whole area at the same time when they're under so much stress. So they stop the electricity over in, say, Cleveland, Tennessee for a while so they can have electricity in Asheville, right?
That is correct.
Or they stop the electricity in Waynesville so they can have electricity over in Cleveland, for example.
Perfect.
And does this also affect some of North Georgia?
It does most certainly affect North Georgia, Union County, Towns County, Fannin County, Ringgold across the line from Chattanooga. All those were affected.
And the crypto mines were putting so much stress on the electric and the internet and the cell phone structure that the hydro dams, TVA's method of producing electricity, and they have some nuclear steam plants as well, right?
Yes, sir. Several up in Knoxville.
And they were overworking. You don't want to overwork a nuclear steam plant, do you?
Only if you want another Chernobyl. If you like living in the backyard of a radioactive wasteland, then you would
All right.
overwork your nuclear power plant. But
And if
for anyone who's ever seen Mad Max, uh, if you didn't like Mad Max and the living
I loved it.
conditions there, you know, probably don't want to
Yeah,
overheat them.
yeah, that's dystopian Stone Age. And so, and you really don't want to overwork a hydroelectric dam or the turbines, because when they get overworked, uh, they get tired, they get hot, right?
They get
They
hot and they also cavitate, Sloan.
and they cavitate. Can you imagine what a cavitating turbine does to the turbine itself? Well, if a turbine explodes, what does the cavitation do to the concrete in the dam? What if the turbine explodes? What does that do to the dam? Uh, they've got turbines that have broken impellers, right?
Yes, and
Or they
those
did, or they
impellers
did,
are still broken.
and they have to get a big skyhook to come in there and replace them, right? And
Yes, that is
that
how
takes
it's done.
a long time sometimes, right?
That takes a very
Right?
long time because you have to shut down
Okay,
the dam. The answer is
right. Before
yes.
the dam, and you shut down the dam because you don't want the dam to fail and everybody downstream being, tsunami washed away and their homes too. Now you had the crypto mines to thank for that, and you went and talked with TVA about it, as I recall, and they got in gear and they started rationing the electricity the crypto mines were using, which the local governments, county and the city governments, had let these crypto mines coming in there, electric and the internet and the cell phone grid after it was all over, because everybody has property rights, and these people, and they also, maybe a little of that was going on, right?
A lot of that was changing hands, palms
Right.
being
So
greased.
these crypto money. So finally, the TVA started rationing the electricity to the crypto mines. And the crypto mines can't operate right if they can't operate all the time, right?
They can't make any money if they can't operate continuously. That's
Okay.
their concern. They
But
can operate for a limited amount of time if they're allotted the internet service and the power. But they have to have internet service and power. If you cut one of those two things, then their ability to generate money or trade their cryptocurrency is fucked. It's gone. They don't have
now
any
these
ability.
now these crypto mines were run out of the San Francisco and other California areas by the local governments and people for the very reason we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
And they came to Appalachia, where they were welcomed with open arms by the local governments.
The
And I can only imagine there was money changing hands. And so when the rolling blackout started, that didn't help the crypto mines. And when they rationed them, that certainly didn't help them. And what's happened to the crypto mines in Appalachia?
well, because they were inflicting so much disruption upon the lifestyle of people who came during Christmas and New Year, and that was when the Arctic front that came in was around that area, around that time. A lot of very wealthy people,
Yes, below
and
zero.
yes,
Well,
a
you see,
lot of
people were coming there like visiting.
Short-term rentals.
Yeah, short-term rentals. We're gonna get to that in a minute, but the place was all filled up and everybody was using a lot of electricity, and all of a sudden a lot of the heat up there is electric generated, right?
It's nearly all electric generated.
So they're using heat pumps or just stuff, the regular stuff that they line the walls with.
Correct. It's some people do use propane, but propane has become so expensive. If there's another option, they use it.
Using electricity, that cheap TVA electricity. And well, there wasn't near enough electricity to go around during the Arctic freeze, right?
You got it. Yes, sir.
I remember talking to you about it. You didn't have cell phone, but every now and then you didn't have power. You're using the generator to keep your place where you live and your family warm, right?
Yes. Chopping
And,
wood,
and
bringing in
people that didn't
wood.
have generators were SOL, which to people that aren't familiar with that acronym is shit out of luck. And here are all these damn people that come in there that are staying in vacation rentals, for which they pay a lot of rent. And that's why the county commissions approved all this stuff, because these developers are going to like them a lot of money off of short-term rentals. People coming up from Florida or Texas or California to hang out there and spend a lot of money. And so there wasn't near enough electricity to go around. Then what happened to the crypto mines?
The crypto mines began to fail in their ability to make money was the first thing. The second thing that happened was, because they were failing to make money, a number of crypto mining companies decided to divert all the funds that they were holding to the islands, Cayman Islands, for example, banks there. And they used the money for personal spending, and they tried to become fugitives. The people who could not get away quick enough to the islands ended up being left to go on CNN and Fox News and say, oh, we weren't doing a Ponzi scheme and we weren't exploiting these people. And when presented with the facts, they would say, but I worked in another department and I wasn't aware of that. That's terrible.
Well, did the crypto mines go out of business in Appalachia?
Yes.
That's
Anchor
what
and FTX. They pulled out.
And there is some criminal investigation activity going on also, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Federal type. All right. But we presented, or you did, the Washington Post apparently saw one of our early crypto mining podcasts, and they contacted you. And you gave them the whole story. And they were spooked out because we claim angels speak to us. And they were so weirded out by that, they couldn't hear what we were saying. Right?
Yes, sir.
And then they came back around again to you, as you told it to me, said, we want to hear what you got, but you can't talk about angels. Basically, is that how it went?
Yes.
And I told them to tell them what their masthead was, which is democracy dies in darkness. You brought that up, and what did they say when you did that?
They ended the meeting. That was the one when they ended the meeting. The meeting before was the one where they said, can't talk about angels because that makes you look crazy. And it is true that a person can be so intelligent that they're just insane. And we just can't have that for this type of serious reporting.
Well, but we weren't asking to be even recognized, were we? We were
Well,
asking them to take the facts we were giving them and do something with the facts. All these things we have talked about already, you gave to the Washington Post, except for that was before the Arctic freeze, right? I mean, before the Arctic freeze, they knew you had given them everything that they could have gone to town on, right?
correct. Yes.
And they had written some little puff piece, right?
The puff piece was as a result of a number of wealthy
One of
people
our
who were trying,
podcasts.
as a result of our podcast, but they wanted to soft pedal it because a number of wealthy developers said, hey, if you're saying that you're ruining this area's rural charm, then people aren't going to want to buy land at 15,000 an acre.
Oh, property rights trump everything.
You got it.
So the local people who've been like you and your family and neighbors and people you know in Appalachia who go back there for generations.
They have been forgotten. We had no rights.
They have no rights.
That's it. We had
Developers'
no
rights
rights.
and the crypto mine companies' rights trump the locals' rights.
They trump the full-time residents. They trump the local people.
And so, when there's no cell phone service in, say, Cleveland, Tennessee, or Waynesville, North Carolina, or say, Clarksville, Georgia, or Dahlonega, Georgia. What do the businesses do there when they don't have cell phone service? They don't have internet, and they don't even have electricity some of the time. What happens to the business community in those places?
That's one of the things that contributes to the high rate of failure in small business in Appalachia. People come here, they move here, and they have a dream that they'll open this small business and that they'll get rich and they'll sell it off. And when they find out that there are all these interruptions, they can't get cellular service, their internet is basically shit. It's so slow they can't conduct online commerce.
You're assuming they have internet at all when it is
And I
running.
am assuming they have internet at all available to them.
When
They
they
can't
do
operate.
So yeah, but I'm not really shedding no tears over the people that moved there hoping to make money in a business. I'm talking about the people who've had businesses there for decades, whose ancestors had businesses there. Those people who didn't contribute at all to this, who weren't the invasive species, what happens to their businesses when they don't have internet and they don't have cell phones coverage?
The reality is the answer is that it has put so much pressure on them that they are looking to sell their land, sell the business that they've, been in the family for generations, and they want to leave the mountains now. But
So
there's not any real place to go.
But they're selling their land to the rich people coming in from Florida and California and Texas and other places, and they're selling their land to the developers.
That's it.
And the developers are building these houses or condos that they rent out like they rent them out down in Key West at awfully high prices. I know about what they do in Key West because I lived there for about, I don't know, almost 18 years.
Right.
and I was very involved in their local politics. I ran for public office down there 10 times, 3 times for county commission, 6 times for mayor, once for school board. And it is no different down there than it is up where you are. The developers have made it impossible for regular folks who didn't already own a home down there to live there because they can't afford it.
Precisely.
Now, they're not putting the kind of pressure on the electric and the internet grid yet. The hurricanes do that. But what's happening, a lot of people from Florida Keys vacation in North Carolina.
Oh, yes. It's now the
in the
in
summer.
thing to do.
And from South Florida and from Middle Florida and from North Florida, they have homes in Appalachia where they go where it's not so hot as it is in Florida in the summertime.
That's it.
And when they come in there on the 4th of July or Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day, and they fill everything up, well, there ain't no electricity to go around, is it?
No, sir. Not enough gasoline to go around. Gasoline becomes extremely expensive. Unleaded only or premium only, you'll see, because it's a holiday weekend and the tankers aren't running on the holiday weekends.
Assuming they have any gasoline.
Assuming
Right.
they have any gasoline, yes.
And so the county commissions, and that's what we're looking at here. And if they're in cities, also the city commissions, that's exactly how it works in the Keys. They are approving every one of these developments.
That's it. And they are pushing the inspectors to charge a very high price for a building permit, but there's pressure on the inspectors to get those building permits out there and put as many out as possible.
Wait a minute.
So
The price of the building permit is related to the value of the development.
to the value of the development, the square footage of what you're building, whether or not it will have plumbing, heating, electricity, etc. Whether it would be something like a dry storage or it's going to be actual living quarters.
So they're taking a piece of the action.
Ah, you got it.
Yes, they're working on a commission, basically, the commissions.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was like that in the Keys. Maybe I should have investigated that a little more. But that's just amazing. Permits, I'm mainly talking about developers that are building something somebody's going to live in. New. So, somebody will buy a condo, somebody from, say, some rich person in Key West or Key Largo or Orlando, for example, will buy one of these developers' condos and turn around and rent it out by the week for like what, $3,000?
Oh, easily.
So they turn it into their own little private hotel. And they do that down in the Keys, and they've passed laws against that down there, that you have to stay there more than 30 days. They don't allow that kind of stuff anymore. But of course, it's happening anyway. They're not catching them. So can you imagine the profit to somebody that buys a $1 million condominium that's renting it out by the week for $3,000?
Yes, I can, because within the region that we're talking about in this nexus where, for example, Georgia and North Carolina and Tennessee are all very close together. Some of the mortgages that have been issued on properties that were used for short-term rentals, they broke the record for how quickly they were paid off, as in how quickly the mortgage, well, if the building cost $750,000, the bank got paid back as quickly as they have ever been paid back, and their interest has been
Well,
paid.
that also cost the bank a lot of interest that they were planning on getting.
Yes, and it's not something that makes the banks happy, but at the same time, that's the business of a bank.
All right. Now, what puzzles me is why the locals keep re-electing the county and city commissioners that allow all this kind of shit to go on. Can you explain that to me?
I can't explain that to myself because the only thing I see is it is as a result of team mentality. They see themselves as Republicans and they're issue voters. These people who are elected claim to be good Christians. Gosh, I'm in church every weekend, and these issue voters identify with that, and that's how they choose who they're going to elect. If it's a Republican
So
and it
even though their business is failing because and they don't have enough heat or cell phone coverage or internet in their homes and in their businesses, and they know what it is, they still elect the people they cause the why it is the very thing that's causing them so much grief. Yes or no?
ignorance, it's just they just don't they choose to be willfully ignorant.
I have
And
another. I have another word for it.
go for
From what you described, they are like people in a fucking cult.
it. Yeah,
They no longer can think for themselves. They no longer can look out for themselves. Whatever the party says or stands for, it has to be from God, I guess.
that is what they say. But you're right. It's very much like these people have been brainwashed and that they fit into a cult.
And that means they would rather have bad internet connection, bad cell service, uh, rolling blackouts in cold weather and hot weather, and any weather, than vote for somebody who opposes it. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
That's fucked up.
It's worse than fucked up. It's self-destructive, and you try to educate these people and they do everything in their power to stay within stay ignorant, or what's worse is they're the ones who could vote and are aware of the issues, but they say, my vote ain't gonna count. I'm just one person. Hell, I ain't going. That ain't worth my time. And I'm thinking and saying to these people, that person is going to represent you the next 2 years. That person is essentially going to run your life because they are the people who are running the government. Of course, it's worth going to vote. Get your ass out there and vote. And they get very angry about it. No, man, my damn vote ain't, it's fixed anyway. And it breaks my heart.
And here you and your family have owned land there for a very long time. Your grandfather owned land there. And the only way you can escape that, you can live somewhere else to sell your land to a developer, right?
That's it.
Who's going to make it even worse for your neighbors than it already is?
Correct.
Now, that's so grim. Uh, I wonder if we can lighten this up a little bit by telling them about the coyotes in your area.
Yes, I'm going to have to come clean in this podcast. I have been practicing, or I have allowed terroristic activities to occur in my general area as a result of two canines that I have made a part of my life.
And these canines are fond of coyote meat.
They're fond even more of scaring coyotes by doing creepy things with the coyote carcasses.
That they cause to be carcasses.
That's right. It used to be that we have Great Pyrenees, which are related to Saint Bernards. They're related to Newfoundlands and uh, Anatolian Shepherds. Uh, I have one who I found wandering the roads, and I have one that I purchased as a female as a gift for some children. And the coyotes would scare the kids at night. And through the dog door, the Great Pyrenees, be it the male or the female, or both sometimes, would decide to go out and enforce frontier justice upon the coyotes.
You told me, about 2 weeks ago, maybe, that your male dog, you wanted to try to call him in one morning. He was up way behind the shed. You could see him, his head, and he was looking at you, and he was looking down, looking at you, and looking down, and you whistled, and he wouldn't come right.
He was looking at me, he was eyeballing back at me, and he was watching me kind of walk up to him, and I couldn't figure out what he had done. I was thinking, oh God, am I gonna come up on something horrible? Did he, did this dog snap? I mean, am I a horrible dog owner or something? And I got kind of close, and he looked at me, and he took and he laid down and he crossed his paws in front of him. And I said, oh shit, I'm not getting whatever he's got unless I trade for it. So I went back to the house and I had a ham
Man,
bone in there.
wait a minute. You saw what he had. He was picking copy and shaking it.
I now at that point in time that I went back to get his trade, I didn't quite know what he was uh
Oh,
I was still fearing the worst. I couldn't imagine what he had killed that sized. And that he was kind of shaking it like a rag doll. And from where I could see him, he was covering it up, and he was sort of embarrassed. It's kind of like, you caught me, man. How about you go back to the house? Give me some peace and quiet. So I came back and I said, here, boy. And it became clear he wasn't freaking out anymore. I walk up and man, he had him a coyote, and it was an older male coyote. The way you tell is you lift up their gums, and if they have long canines and a lot of damage to their teeth, that's an older coyote. And this one was a big one. And he had practically chewed on and shaken this coyote's carcass after he killed it until it's like you said, it was missing fur. It was like a chicken that'd been
well, there
plucked.
was another coyote too, wasn't there? A female.
Yes, there was a female who came by in heat, and he got her as well.
They had them both, and he wouldn't give them up to you. You wanted to bury them, right?
I wanted to bury him, and I mean, he's that was not in his vocabulary.
So how did you work that out with him?
I traded him some frozen roast and a ham bone. I traded him one at a time. I saw his, he saw mine, and I by that time had a pair of tongs like you use in welding or when you're blacksmithing, and I grabbed that fucking coyote away from him, and he didn't care because he had a ham bone to chew on that one. But I saw, like you said, there's a female there too. Hell, he'd killed two in one night. And she was in estrus because I could hear her calling the night before. And when they get out and do the yip, 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 yipping, that means the female's in heat. And she's calling all the boy dogs that might be ready, to have a litter of coy dogs, is what they're called at NC State. Half coyote, half dog. Well, I gather that I have a serial killer living with me because he did two killings in one night.
And he traded you the girl for the roast.
I had to go get the frozen roast for him, and he was really disappointed because he hadn't been able to properly chew on her and shake her. And
then you
there is one
got out of
more. There's one more.
you got the tractor.
Yeah.
Huh?
Now there is one
You got
more. The
well, I'm
female
gonna get
that
to that one, but you get
okay.
you wait a minute. You're talking about the other one that got killed
Yes.
a long time ago,
No, this is the first one
right?
that the female has ever killed, and this is very recently. This
Oh,
was
the female killed a coyote too?
she got her first notch on her rifle.
I didn't I didn't know about this. I was thinking about your cat.
Yeah, we ought to talk about Catzilla. I have a Norwegian
Wait a minute.
forest
We're
cat.
gonna get back we're gonna get back to the cat later because that was before all this. And I mean, you are a coyote terrorist farmer. That's what you are. ACLU is gonna get on you about that.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
especially
you're
if coyotes learn to type.
or get a blog or a podcast. Can you imagine us interviewing some coyotes? Oh wow, that's some bitches dogs. They ain't fair running them dogs around out there. But anyway, so the female also
Well,
killed a coyote. I haven't heard this story.
yes, she killed one, and what had happened was she's
Well, how
very
long ago?
protective of
The children?
the children, and this has been about 7, maybe 8 days ago, no more than that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
uh,
just telling me about this?
I had forgotten to. With the, I it just, I mean,
Well, dock your pay. Go ahead.
yeah, I deserve that. At any rate, she didn't like those coyotes calling as they ran through the pastures. So she kind of went out her doggy gate and she found a space that she could sneak under, and the calling by the coyotes quit. She doesn't have any interest in mauling these things or shaking them like rag dolls. Instead, she brought it to the front door or of the porch and left it there like,
Dropped it.
yeah, she just dropped it and left it, as a present. I think as a present, maybe she's threatening me. I don't know. That that is a possibility I need to consider.
She wants you to give her a rump roast. It's like a cat that kills a mouse, brings it to you. They won't be thanked. Otherwise, they'll bring you a snake.
That's true. That is all too true up here.
I had that happen down in the trailer with my cat, my rat cat. Brought me a snake one night, put it in my bed with me.
Oh my God.
Woke me up slapping the covers. I reached down and found this thing by my leg. It was a little indigo racer, and I picked it up. It was still very much alive. I took it out and put it in the bush. Said, "You stupid shit! Why'd you let that cat catch you?" It was in the middle of the night. Cats see good at night. But anyway, you buried the coyotes deep and put rocks over the grave so nothing could dig them up. That's right.
That's correct.
And but how did the coyotes get through your fence?
There are neighbors at the far side who have fencing, no fencing whatsoever anymore. And even though you can have a really strong power box, if you keep it 24-hour, 24
So you have an
7.
electric fence.
Yes, if I have an electric fence and I keep it running 24/7, if it is ever read by a game warden and it's at a certain degree of heat or joules or watts, they can issue you a ticket because it could burn a red wolf, which is considered an endangered species here, etc. So
Oh
you
dear.
do have to occasionally turn down your electric fences. The game wardens will warn you about it. You get a little sticker on your gate. So I'd had a sticker, and anytime I have to turn down the power to the electric fence, you're going to hear coyotes, because the coyotes, they'll take the shock because they know that they can get in there and hunt. That's a clear place to hunt.
You know, they know
except
there are no
that,
hunters on their land except you. And now they know the dogs are there. Maybe they have a coyote telegraph and they have sent out some alarm messages. Well, we may not want to go to this place anymore. But
and that's
in,
what it's like. If a
back
couple
when
of
you were
them,
having the rolling blackouts and the power outages, the coyotes are running wild on your place, right?
they sure were. And at that time, I had an old rescue Great Pyrenees, and he did the best job he could, but it wasn't in him still to go out. He was just so old. And he was a
Yeah.
rescue. And the
His son,
current male I've got is a rescue, but
well,
he's
the
not
old,
as old.
yeah, he's still pretty fierce. Now, before all this, you have two big cats, domestic cats, and one of them's a Norwegian forest cat.
Yes, abnormal.
Abnormal, and abnormal got attacked by a coyote.
A coyote tried to attack her and get her by her tail, but she has a huge coat year round. I brush it for her, and she doesn't really care for being brushed. Give her hairball medicine. She doesn't like that either. She wants you to leave her coat alone. I learned why. If she had not had that coat, that coyote could have gotten down to her skin and penetrated it, and she'd been screwed. But he just got a wad of fur. What she did was she maneuvered herself from his mouth down to his neck. And because Norwegian forest cats are known for climbing tall fir and pine trees in Norway and the native species there, she just decided, I'll move down this coyote's neck. And she got to where his voice box was, and she held on for dear life, and she chewed and she bit. And gradually that coyote, it was screaming, and I had no idea what was going on. I knew it was happening outside, but it was so far away. I'm looking with the spotlight trying to find this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, my cat's gonna die. And I had Charlie inside, and I wasn't letting him outside, and I was thinking I was gonna
That's
find
your cat or your Great Pyrenees.
no, Charlie is the Maine Coon cat,
Okay.
and he's a big old fat tabby who talks. But at any rate, Miss Abby proceeded to stay on that coyote until we didn't hear it calling anymore, calling in distress. And coyotes are really vicious because if they have a wounded member of their pack, they will either abandon that member to die or they'll kill him and eat him themselves. But they didn't know what to make, apparently, of Abby, because Abby was down there on his neck and she was chewing and she was clawing. And I walked down to a shed very early in the morning and I was calling, hoping that maybe she was still alive, maybe I could take her to a vet. And it's still, not daybreak yet. And I see something coming, and I shine an infrared light down there, and I'm trying to see if I can see a blood trail or anything. And on the white parts of her fur, it's like she's glowing, like she was red and radioactive. It was all the copper in a coyote's blood. Coyotes have a tremendous amount of copper in their liver and in their bloodstream. I guess it comes from being carnivores. It's what I've always been told. And I noticed something. She's not moving very fast, and it seemed like she was dragging something, and she was taking a break. She'd take a break, drag, take a break, drag. And I said, I got to go down there and see if she's okay.
Well,
So
you
I
have to check
walked
on
down
your breath.
there, and she was bringing me a present. She had chewed out first the layer of fur and apparently either eaten it or spit it out. And then she had clawed and she had chewed, and she got to his windpipe, and that was it for him. But he had bled so much from her, he dyed her fur with his blood. And with that infrared light, she had this eerie metallic glow to her. And even washing her to get putting her in a cat bath
I'm thinking of a superhero movie. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, she could do it. A lot of tails on that
What
cat.
was she dragging for you to have?
A coyote.
She was dragging the whole coyote?
She was trying. Like I said, she was having to stop and pant and get her breath. But she was determined that I see her good works and be rewarded.
Lord have mercy.
And
While you were telling me these fabulous stories, I was thinking that you ought to go to a county commission meeting with your Norwegian cat and your Great Pyrenees and lock the doors and turn them loose.
but then I'd have to explain what happened to all the coyotes on the county commission. Oh shit.
Oh Lord. People
it,
like me were raised in the city. we have no fucking clue what it's like to live in the country. We are terminally ignorant unless we meet somebody like you.
it was
Oh,
funny we've had Great Pyrenees for a long time. My father, before my father at one time had brought a female Great Pyrenees in, and to get her company because she was lonely. She had been raised around little kids, and there were no little kids at the house then. We got another Great Pyrenees, and we neutered him when his bone structure he had grown into his bones, and he could get big. And he would never leave what he considered to be his territory. And if you took and you put him into a bed of a truck, something like that, he got very concerned. I mean, he would go to pieces. You'd have to ride in the bed of the truck with him because he thought that, he was leaving his place, leaving his post. That's how dedicated he was. But
they're bred to be that way.
that's it. And we were taking what we had figured out was I had a little subcompact Toyota Yaris, little tiny car. And I realized those two Great Pyrenees, that if I could get them in the back with the seats folded down, they would just fit. And they would lay down and they would look at people out the side rear windows, and people would be taking photos with their cell phones of these two big dogs and two very big men taking these two very big dogs to a country vet. And by a country vet, I mean this vet is the type of vet that he comes out to your place if there's a sick cow or a sick horse, and there aren't a lot like him left. And as he gets old, and it's been hard for me to see him get old because he's just such a good person. A woman who was wanting to bring her very small show dogs to him and get their get their claws clipped. He told her, ma'am, there's 1,000,000 vets in this area that'll do that for you. There are dog grooming places that'll do that. That's not what I do. And he wasn't trying to be mean to her. But she called the Department of Fish, Game, and Wildlife and the Board of Veterinarians. And she sent them pictures of the two Great Pyrenees in the back of the Yaris. And
Wait a minute,
she
is this woman from California or Florida by any chance?
This lady,
Or
you hit
Texas?
it. She was from Florida. She was from South Florida.
One of
She
the
was from
nice
Fort
people,
Myers.
one of the nice invaders. Anyway,
One of
go
the
ahead.
wonderful invaders. But she
Yeah.
apprised all those agencies that there this country vet was breaking law by treating exotic species. Well,
Exotic species like dog.
and well, that's what he said, you know, to the inspector, and the inspector says, no, we've got a picture here. It looks like you were treating a polar bear or polar bears.
A polar bear got it all the way from the North Pole to North Carolina. How did that come about?
Well, the
What do you
country
think will
vet
happen?
looked at him and said, he said, is this a rib? And that's a way of, a country folks way of rib of say, if you say, is that a rib? That's a way of saying, are you fucking with me? You got to be fucking with me. And the guy from Fish and Game said, I'm not, no, this isn't a rib. This is serious. Have people got polar bears here? He said, those are Great Pyrenees, son. How long you been out of school? I've been on this job for 2 weeks now. I know what I'm doing. And this vet's been in business for 40 years and had been grown up on a farm.
And you're raising polar bears.
Yeah, he called to tell me that, not to be so
I wish you
conspicuous.
were. You could take them with you with the cats to the county commission meeting, turn them loose in chambers after locking the doors. Imagine two big old polar bears, what they could do to a county commission.
Yeah, I might not even have to take Great Pyrenees. I'd just like to lock the door and let the polar bears go to work.
Oh, Lord.
All you can eat buffet, boys. Have a good time.
Yeah. And I've got antacids, all you're going to need because I'm a politician, and they're going to give you heartburn and acid reflux. You're going to have diarrhea, and you're probably going to have antibiotics because of what's in them.
That's it. They would definitely need some antibiotics.
Toxic waste, politicians. All right. Well, where are we at on time, sir?
We just hit 1 hour and 3 minutes.
I think we should stop.
We're adjourning this meeting.
Before the polar bears get loose.
Yes, I have to tell the polar bears good night and check on other creatures.
Okay. Good night, bye. Goodbye.
Good
Good
night,
night.
Sloan. Good night, audience.